please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey, DFS fans, we haven't forgotten about you. AJ and I, Paul Bruno, the Statsman, are back with your daily fantasy sports picks with our thoughts ahead of tonight's 8-game schedule. AJ, why don't you lead us into your picks on DraftKings for tonight's matchups? We know that one game was postponed, but there are 8 games remaining on the schedule.
Yeah, there's plenty of fun games tonight, but that means plenty of lineup decisions as well. And so we always encourage you, if you have questions, if you're between two players, to reach out to us on Twitter. You can follow me at AJ Scholz24, and you can follow Paul the Statsman at Statsman22. We would love to discuss our lineups, your lineups, and all your DFS questions over there. In terms of my DraftKings lineup tonight, look, I'm going very heavy for what I envision will be a one-sided contest when Edmonton and Ottawa face off. You've got a struggling Matt Murray who's been shelled all season long against a dominant duo in Edmonton. And so, look, the rest of this lineup is going to be questionable at best. I'll be upfront about that in the fact that I am going big here. This is a GPP lineup to its core. I've got Draisaitl and McDavid as my centers. So you're talking 8,400 for Draisaitl, 9,000 for McDavid. And look, I don't stop there. I've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well at 7,900. So the point is, there's a lot of money being spent here on 3 guys. And so that's going to make for some tough decisions the rest of the way. For now, I've got Nick Felino in as another winger. He's coming in at just 4,000. But what I'm waiting on is to see how the Columbus lineup changes with Patrik Laine expected to play tonight. Felino has been in a top 6 role, but that's not guaranteed. As an alternative at that same price point is Andre Burakovsky. Now, Colorado also potentially facing some roster shuffles after Nathan MacKinnon's out. So it's definitely something to watch, but those are the 2 guys I'm looking at for that 4,000 spot. Corey Perry is going to be my cheap winger here at 2,800. Montreal has been playing, quality, high-scoring hockey against Vancouver. They'll go again tonight, and I think he's due to continue his recent run of form. Defensively, I've got a couple of guys handling power play responsibilities who admittedly have underperformed this well, and it starts with Neil Piank for Winnipeg. He costs just $4,000, but he's continuing to get the big responsibility with the Jets, top guys. Kevin Shattenkirk for Anaheim. They're going up against LA, so this might be a decent spot to use a handful of those Anaheim guys. He comes at 3,600. My utility spot here, I'm going to use Tyson Yost for Colorado. He's only 2,500. I think he's got a chance to fill in at that top line spot with Nathan MacKinnon out. Now, if he doesn't, I might look at other options. But even if he's not on the first line, he for sure won't be on the fourth, because they need to do some shuffling around. So I'm going to watch where he fits in, but I'll probably use him regardless, considering he's just 2,500. In the nets, a good night to use a backup, and that's Jake Allen for Montreal, 7,800. So he's not breaking the bank. Again, Montreal has been playing some very quality hockey and winning some games of late, and I think it's a good time to capitalize. That's been my DraftKings lineup. Again, I will share that out on social media later today at AJ Scholz24. Paul the Statsman at Statsman22, I know has your FanDuel lineup. Paul, what do you got?
Well, I'm leaning heavily on home sides, and what's the difference with home and away anyway this year with no fans in the stands? But I'm betting that the last change makes a difference to a lot of the teams on a go-forward basis, just as it has in the past. So I'm leaning heavily on 2 teams tonight in my mix, picking Edmonton with an easy win against Ottawa again. And St. Louis is my other team that I have 3 players in the roster. But I didn't go with both Oilers centers. I wanted to have a little more money to spend on some wingers here and other teams and so on. But I went with Leon Draisaitl in the one of the offensive slots at $8,700, and a lock to get points in this matchup in my estimation. But then I went to St. Louis and I took their second line, Braden Shen, with $6,100. I think that's a good value play. He's produced almost 16 points a night in FanDuel so far this season, and I like his chances to continue that against this, albeit a stingy Arizona team. I think they dent their armor tonight. I did go back to Edmonton for one of my wings. My top priced winger in the mix is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Figures to match up with McDavid and Draisaitl in the power play to be the most potent power play in the NHL, I think, when this season's all said and done. And they're off to a great start. And RNH clocks in at $7,500. That means I had to go a little bit cheaper with a couple of other players. Andrew Copp being one of them. I spoke in the main portion of our show about how hot he's been in number one line role with the Jets. They have a game against Calgary, a hard division rival. But Copp's off to a great start, averaging almost 16.5 points in FanDuel play. Then I turned to my defense pairing, AJ, and I got two guys who factor in to the power plays with their respective clubs, and I get them for sub 5,000, so sign me up. One of them is Josh Morrissey in Winnipeg, factoring in behind, I think, what is one of the other top power plays in the league. He's had a bit of a subpar year to date, but I think he's just about ready to chip in a big way, clocking in at $4,000 of value. Tyson Berry is a guy who really impressed me on the weekend against the Leafs, and then again on Sunday night against Edmonton. It looks against Ottawa. It looks like he's really found his game, and in the back power play quarterback role here, that's a great value at $4,800. I go back to my utility positions, filling out with a couple of wingers who play top six roles for their respective clubs. Denis Gurianov off to a fine start for Dallas, averaging 16.5 points per game, is $5,600 value. Jaden Schwartz partnering with Braden Shen on that second line. They'll avoid the top checking of the Arizona Coyotes, and I think that gives them a chance to light it up with his centerman at $5,700. He's also a guy that will be a part of the power play. In the nets, I was able to go after Jordan Binnington's off to a fine start in the nets for the Blues this season and priced a little bit lower than I would have expected at $7,600. So I jumped all over that. And I like the balance of my roster that affords me still to get one of the top centers in the game, Leon Draisaitl, at the top of the board, AJ. So pretty confident about continuing my winning streak in FanDuel play, and hope that our listeners do buy in. We're getting great advice, you and I, so far this season, just as we have in the past. And that's why our listenership's going up, because people are winning money because of what we're talking about, partner. The secret's getting out. So we wish all of you good luck with your picks. Join us again next Tuesday for the following episode of Puckcast with Statsman and AJ. So long, everybody.